Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. Just coming back from the supermarket. And I was at the gym just before that, so I'm staying true to my routine. So we're a week away from the election. And now everyone has it down that Trump is going to win. But, when you look a little closer at the numbers, it's the odds favor him, 60-40. But in the last Super Bowl, the Chiefs were, Kansas City Chiefs were 60-40 underdogs. So it's still pretty close. I can say that the momentum is for Trump. I mean, maybe this thing in Madison Square Garden with the comedian making jokes about Puerto Ricans, I thought he might have fumbled there, but I don't see any changes in the odds markets. But then at the same time, it takes 2 or 3 days for them to catch up. Polling is always a week behind, so I think we're on the last polls before the election. So there's I saw something somewhere, probably CNN. I do watch them. I try to give both sides, equal time, because the truth is somewhere in the middle between CNN and Fox and all these YouTube channels. Somewhere the truth is in the middle. I even watch the, all these bloggers, doing polling analysis, which, that's like looking into a crystal ball. It's really going to depend on the turnout for the Democrats. If people get off their sofas and show up to vote on election day. Now, the early voting has been really high, but from what I hear, and I don't know, it's hard to say. I guess they assume that the person who's registered Republican votes Republican because they know who's voting by registrations, whether it's an independent, Democrat, or Republican. So it's kind of foggy data, and it's still up in the air. But I agree with one of the analysts on CNBC said it's going to landslide one way or another in the Electoral College. Either Kamala Harris will win all those blue wall states and she'll pick up Nevada and it'll be a blue landslide, or Trump will win in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, maybe Michigan, and he holds on to Arizona and Nevada, and it becomes like a red landslide. Now the casinos in England all are favoring Trump now, but like I said, it can change, after this thing with the Madison Square Garden. But I don't know. It's we've seen Trump say things a lot worse, and this wasn't even Trump. This was a comedian. So it's hard to say. I mean, I can tell you, I'm not excited about either candidate, but Kamala's cackling really bothers me, and I have to say I find J.D. Vance impressive. He may not be pro-Ukrainian in all this, but so is most of Europe right now. It looks that way. Seven, I wouldn't say most, but 7 countries in Europe are wanting to block Ukraine from joining NATO. So it's not just him. And I'm looking at the whole picture, who's going to do what for the United States. And to me, the border is a big problem. I mean, Mexico. The problem I have with Mexico is they elected a leader who invited Putin for their inauguration, and no one in Ukraine has anything to say about that. About hey, America should put the wall up. Now we have a hostile neighbor. So I don't know. That just kind of, I'm a little bit dumbfounded here why people don't have an opinion on that. It's like people only want to see what they want to see. I'm trying to see everything, and like I said, out of the 4 people in this election, I like J.D. Vance the best. He's if he's going to be a future president, a guy who speaks like that, stays on point. He did his military service honorably. He went to Yale University, self-made guy from Ohio. I mean, this. It'd be only 4 years of buffoonery, and then we get him. That's not bad. That's not a bad deal. I don't know where Harris is going to take the country. It's. I mean, if she continues on this current vector, it's definitely not good for Ukraine. I mean, I'll put in the comments below. CNN did a big article on the desertions. I mean, this is all mainstream sources. I don't read the Russian media. And I don't quote Fox. I mean, I watch them just to see what people are thinking, but I do my own research, and I live here and see stuff for myself. But if we continue on this current vector, and we do 8 more years of this under Harris, there isn't going to be much left here. You know, it's you know, the Russians are eating away slowly. I'd hate to say it, but it's a very slow grind. And yes, their economy is a mess. They're having a lot of problems with manpower. They're having sabotage inside Russia. But that's life in Russia, right? They're not the US or Europe where they care about their citizens. They just don't. They don't care about anybody over there. Unless you're like living in the Moscow, St. Petersburg in the right districts. And really that's the only way we're going to stop the war. You know, I mean, you know, Zelensky was talking about getting nuclear weapons and all this. You know, if he can figure it out, and he can do it quietly, because he doesn't have to worry about the Russians blocking him. It's more like the U.S. and allies will probably put a stop to that. You know, they are not, they're not being very forthcoming what their intentions are, you know, and what the end game is here, because obviously they're not looking to liberate the seized territories. Otherwise we would have 150 F-16s and a HIMARS factory, and we would have a no-fly zone. And I think they could have gotten away with the no-fly zone. They can still get away with that. And I don't know why the Europeans, at the very least, aren't stepping up to do it. You know, defy the Americans. You know, Bill Clinton defied the Europeans and went into Kosovo and stopped the Serbians from genociding the, you know, Kosovo Albanians. I mean, Bill Clinton and I think the British went in there. I remember there was a British general, and General Wesley Clark. This was a long time ago in '99. So I don't know, Europe has to kind of look out for its own interests. You know, they have Russia in their backyard. And this is where I really agree with Trump and everything. You know, nobody's trying to sabotage NATO by asking them to pay more money, you know, to spend more money on weapons. I think that's quite the opposite. You know, hey, you're not spending enough money on weapons, Norway and, you know, Belgium and Germany. Spend more money on weapons. You know, that's that doesn't sound like sabotage to me. That sounds like he wants Europe to take care of its own backyard a little bit better, take some pressure off America. I mean, we're taking care of Taiwan, we're taking care of everything. You know, we're trying to take care of the Middle East. I don't agree with that. You know, my view on Israel, a lot of people who know me, you know, is like I think Israel should all be evacuated and give them West Virginia, you know, or Mississippi, and they can turn those into like thriving states instead of, you know, backwater. You know, in 10 years, if you put all of Israel into West Virginia would be the richest state in America, you know, and have a thriving tech sector, you know, you know, and a weapons industry and everything, you know, but that ain't going to happen. America's got to take care of that too. And then America's taking care of its Arab allies like Oman and United Arab Emirates, who also want to join the BRIC countries. You know, so we're taking care of people who want to stab us too. You know, kind of crazy. You know, we take care of the Philippines. You know, so America's spread out pretty thin. So it's not an unreasonable ask. And you know, the left media would have done good to acknowledge some of these points. Like, yes, the Democrats have to step up on the border. You know, the Mexican government invited Putin for an inauguration. We should take that as a threat. Yes, there is a issue with Europeans not spending enough on military, not taking the lead, you know, in case there's another war with Russia or China, that, you know, we need more leadership, you know, that America can't be the ones always, you know, in front of the train. So those are not unreasonable asks. And if they would have just done like normal, like we learned this in school, like in 5th grade, like when you write a paper, you write your thesis, you write a counter thesis, you acknowledge some points of the counter thesis, and then you write 3 more points to support your thesis. But you have some acknowledgement. And it's just like in a business plan. You acknowledge there's competition, or there's you know, weaknesses. You do the SWOT analysis. But no, they want to just ram their agenda down and whitewash over the human trafficking, the fentanyl, you know, not to mention that it's like a big gaping hole for terrorists or Russian spies to get in to America on this southern border. They just want to ignore all that. And then they just want to ignore that, you know, Europe doesn't spend enough money on defense, and moreover, they have a bad attitude. You know, they're always flip-flopping, and, Nobody wants to take lead. They're promising weapons. The weapons don't show up. So, Ukraine is screwed either way, right? So it may as well get screwed now and save lives and rebuild the country in the right way. And they need to pressure Europe to provide the security, or get screwed later, after 8 years of Harris. Then a Republican shows up, right? Maybe she only goes 4 years, who knows? But Trump will be done. If he doesn't win this, there won't be Trump. It'll be like Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley, or someone will be running after 4 years. It'll be a Republican people can live with. It will come up Marco Rubio, one of these people that is not so divisive and not so unhinged, unpredictable, type of thing. There's one more word, unhinged, unpredictable, uncontrollable. I don't know, something like that. But they're not going to be so kind, and then Ukraine will be grinded down. 4 more years of this, and aid packages here and there. Everything is like piecemeal. There's no real strategy to win. We heard about Crimea, getting Crimea back, and the curse thing kind of while they did that diversion, they lost some villages, and this is like honest, you can read this in open media. This is not like military secrets. So it's like I said, we can't go on this way forever. It's just there's like a huge mental health crisis with the men here. They're trapped. They could get drafted. They can't get out of the country. It's hard for them to go for a walk. Just the other day on this walk, I got stopped by the Army recruiters, and I had to flash my U.S. passport to not get taken away. It's tough here. It's really a hard time, and all these people cheerleading the war and saying, "Oh yeah, it's just Ukraine is like a hot knife cutting through the butter. Russia's like a slab of butter." It's not true. It's a grind. It's a war of attrition, and it's Ukraine is deliberately being held back by these allies. There's it's really, I hate to use this word unfair, because all of life and all of existence is unfair. Nobody is dealt an ideal hand of cards. So, like I said, I'm rooting for the future of America, because without America, the whole world will crumble. We're seeing that. If you pull America out of anything, everything just falls apart. Nobody wants to step in and take lead. The British do. They have a big heart, but they have little resources. Then you have the Germans, right? They have big resources, but no heart. So, and you have Norway, right? You have little Norway, really big heart. Or Estonia, super huge heart, but they have 5 guns or $25. Norway is a super rich country, on the per capita thing, but it would take all the money they have and then some to even get to 10% of what the U.S. is giving. And then they have to support their own welfare state. So, there's a lot of people with good intentions, but they just don't have the American resources. So what I'm hoping for is when we get some sort of settlement or some deal, that Europe steps up and says they will provide the boots on the ground, the no-fly zone, and America will not hold them back with the weapons. But then they can build their own, right? There's the Eurofighter, there's the Saab Gripen. They have their own version of HIMARS in Europe. They have Norway has very good air defense missiles. So Europe can do it. They can build the factories. They have to. They do have to step up. The world is forever changed. We're never going back. We're never going back the way it was. You never do. You never ever do. This is a new Cold War. We need a European army. We need to get rid of this whole confederation of countries and have a republic, just like America did in 1790. They realized being a confederation under the Articles of there was an old constitution, was called the Articles of Confederation, and this new U.S. Constitution gave the power to the national government, more and more, and that's what they need. They need a strong national government. They need to get rid of this unanimous voting have it like a 2/3 vote or something, so Hungary can't hang people out to dry. You know, it's that way. You know, they have to do something about Hungary too. I've always believed that Hungary is like hemorrhoids, you know, for Europe. Just doesn't go away either. It's not the kind that goes away. You know, it's like herpes or something. You know, you know, it's you know. So they've got to redo that constitution. You know, the European Constitution is like a bureaucrat's dream. You know, just endless discussions, endless like motions and votes and censures, but they don't really do anything. You know, it's not designed for war. You know, to get quick decisions made, mobilize resources. You know, every country can like veto this thing. So it's not hard for Russia to get in there and divide and conquer Europe. So the whole concept of Europe has to be rethought. You know, this whole thing with separate languages, you know, the languages should be a hobby. Like, okay, there should be like English as a national language for Europe, because that's like the NATO language. You know, when you have, you know, Polish and British and American and Norwegian soldiers working together, they're all speaking English. You know, so we need soldiers in the future, like NATO soldiers. So English should be like the universal language for Europe, and then they can offer their home language, you know, have everything like a dual language as a secondary thing. You know, I mean, it would be a big shift, but it's needed. It's needed to unify Europe. Then the European Parliament should be more stronger than country parliaments. And we got to get Norway and Switzerland and, you know, these countries into the EU. Switzerland into NATO. We got to pressure Switzerland that there's no such thing as neutral. You know, this is like all the transformation that has to take place, but it probably won't. It probably won't, you know, in real terms. They want to lean on America really hard, you know, and America is like fracturing, you know, somehow the left decided to, you know, isolate people with family values. You know, and they lost a lot of people. They decided to go down that route. You know, we can't afford it. You know, like my political views are in the middle. So, yeah, I'm pro-life. I admit that very freely. But you know, I'm also anti-woke. You know, pro-gun. But I'm also very much believe in a strong social system, a strong safety net. You know, I believe in saving the environment, getting the emissions down. You know, creating cities where we walk everywhere. I mean, it would use less resources and people would be happier, healthier. You know, people would be more social. You know, so I'm all for that too. You know, I mean, I have very strong conservative values on one side, but on the other side, I'm also have some very socialistic values about, you know, taxing, you know, people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and taking that money and paying teachers $150 grand a year to teach in the inner city on the condition they live there, in the same zip code that they're teaching in, you know, buy a house, and, you know, that would get an economy going, having a whole bunch of teachers and, you know, school staff paid a lot of money. That would clean up the inner cities, you know, bring a lot of money in there. You know, so, you know, we have to re-engineer some things in America as well. You know, because we keep going down this route we're on, we're going to end up like Brazil, where it's just a few really wealthy people, and then everyone else is just like living in tents out in the street. You know, I mean, I guess we're already there, aren't we? That's why this election is so close. You know, the left media doesn't want to acknowledge that either. You know, so yeah, that's where it is. You know, so the election is close. People should get out and vote early. I voted early already. You know, but I voted in Delaware, which is 80% blue anyway, so my vote wouldn't matter, you know, but I still have to do it, so at least it shows up in statistics somewhere, and someone somewhere gets a message, you know, that something has to change, you know, bring things more to the center, you know, bring the country a little bit, you know, and then the country should be patriotic, family should be front and center, the family should be the front and center institution. We got to get this woke out of schools. You know, like I said, we're at war. We need to teach math, science, you know, proper reading and writing in English, get all this Spanish language, all this stuff out of the schools. You know, I don't need it. That's a hobby. You know, maybe if you want to go in military intelligence or something, but that could be like an extracurricular that you learn Russian or Chinese one of the, or Farsi, the Iranian language, something that you can, interrogate the enemies with. When you catch one of them, you know enough language to, waterboard them and get some answers out of them. But yeah, math, science, English, then the social studies, which covers like, music, art, geography, this kind of things, civics, the American history, all of that would be covered under this social studies, because you need a bit of that too, to stimulate creativity. Creativity comes when like two dissimilar fields kind of join together, like you put math and music together, and then you get algorithms. People develop algorithms and stuff. You'll see a lot of these mathematicians had a strong the music background when they were young. I know one very good mathematician. The guy also plays in a band. So you definitely need those kind of subjects. People need to know who Mozart is and Beethoven is and Bach. They need to know that stuff. They need to know who the artists are, like Edvard Munch or Claude Monet or Vincent van Gogh. They need to know who these people are as well. So but that's like a subject that could be, like I said, that's the fourth subject. But anyway, that's all I got today, and we'll see you after the election.